Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 52 Topics with
Francis Fiordolino.
Frank Fiordolini.
Francis Fiordolini. Yes, his name is Francis.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, his name is Francis. So let's say hi to some people, and then Frank, I'll let you talk about what's going on tonight. All right,
Sure.
buddy?
Sure.
All right, let's see who's here. We got Donnie. What's up, Donnie? We got the great, the powerful, the amazing moderator, Roro G. We got Pepino out west. Apparently, he's out west. We got Tatone. What's going on, buddy? We got Joe Puzzles. What's going on? We got Joseph Bompensiero. What's going on, man? Who else? Who else do we got? That's it. That's all we got. And we got Bulux. He says, Fran G, how's your asshole? Okay. Whoa.
Yeah. It's good.
Salacardi, hey, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, my man? What's up? He's gonna like this show. Sal is we're gonna have a lot of if you will, we're gonna have a lot of experts in a lot of fields, guys that really live for this kind of stuff and they're good at it. The mobologists. I've talked to them in the past. Pretty good. We're gonna have James Buccellato again, who's become a regular on this show for good reason, because he brings a lot to the show, you know. And then we got Eric and Griffin, who they're expert. One is an expert in the Bonanno family. I mean, this guy knew what color underwears my uncles wore. Okay, he knows what the fuck they were about, everything. I mean, this guy is just phenomenal. He'll break down the '67 Cypress Garden attack. He'll break down the Vito Lacata, who was Vito Lacata, and then and a lot more. We'll bring them guys on. And if I forgot, that's Griffin. And Eric is well-rounded in stuff here and in Sicily, which is a little bit edgy for me. But at the same time, you know, the show comes first now these days. So I ain't worried. Let's do it.
All right, cool, man. So anything else you wanna talk about? Anything going on?
Yes. I want to say hi to everybody first. Nice to see you shaved, bum. Thank you. I'm living up to the old Yankee ways. You know, they could grow beards now, you know. The New York Yankees, that is, not the mob. Anyhow, back to what I was saying. All right, let's see. Did we say hi to everybody?
Yeah, I think we said hi to everybody. We'll wait for some people to come in.
How many people we got? About 12?
We only got 35 people right now, so we'll wait.
Okay, that's fine. But
we shall wait. Monday's just the day, but you know, Wednesday, you know, we try to put them in, but Monday usually hits pretty hard. Gaslight, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you, man.
What's up?
I think Gaslight will love this show. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I took the words out of my mouth.
Hey, one question at a time, Gaslight. All right, relax. One question. I'm just kidding.
Charge you a quarter. We'll charge you a quarter a question. You fucking be ready for about 20 bucks.
Now, I'll be starring the questions as we go, as we always do, and we'll probably get to a Q&A. So if you think that your question is not going to get asked, I'm going to star it, and then we'll have a Q&A. We'll get to that.
Gotcha.
We will get to that.
Yes. Right. We were talking about a phone call I got today from a kid. I thought I was a kid. He's a grown man. Everybody's a kid to me. Younger than I am. Got in trouble back in the day, didn't tell, didn't do nothing like that. He just was a victim of trying, and we all been this, especially not all. I'm talking about people that get in trouble, you know, trying to impress, you know, trying to be in that life. So this poor kid, he just got caught in between some fucking real assholes that I grew up with. Most of them told, they're all in Florida, and he made a bad choice, and shout out to him without mentioning his name or his case, unless, you know, one day he wants to talk about it. You guys know who I'm talking about, but I'm not gonna bring him up. He's just
and this is the second time since we started the show that somebody from out of left field reached out to you, right?
No, there's been more.
No, I mean pertinent to
the people I grew up with. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One was a cooperator, one is not. But you know, he's doing good, and he gave up a lot because just trying to impress his friends. So he made a bad choice. I made bad choices. People make bad choices. So he knows who he is. I hope he's listening. Shout out to you wherever you are, and then we'll see where we can go with one of his episodes. Obviously, I am going to talk about the incident, but however, there's more. We got more information on that incident, so we'll go from there.
Yeah, Matt, what's going on, buddy? You're not late. We barely started. What are you talking about?
Matt, what's
Steve.
up? Buddy? So he thinks he's late. He's like, he comes in to say, "What's up, Steve?"
What's up, Steve? Half day of the Jackal, $10. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you, man. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Mr. Jackal.
Our buddy down under. What is it? 7 in the morning over there, something like that. Wow. Oh, wow. We got someone backstage.
Australians aren't watching us.
Yeah.
If I lived in Australia, I wouldn't watch me. I'd be enjoying Australia. You know what I mean? All the great stuff that it brings. Air Supply, Olivia Newton-John, the Bee Gees, all the corny stuff on AM radio. No, just kidding, guys. AC/DC, to me, one of the best rock groups ever.
Who else is from Australia? As far as music goes.
Crocodile
Maybe the
Dundee.
guy backstage will know. I can't think of anything.
Crocodile Dundee.
I'm talking about musically, but yeah. Kylie Minogue. There you go, Sal. Thank you. There you go. That's a good one.
She's hot. She's definitely hot. Her and her sister.
Donnie says, Brett, Karen said she didn't get paid yet, but the money will start pouring. Oh, thanks. We'll tell Karen, I said hi, I guess. In excess. Oh, really?
Oh,
Michael,
yeah, in excess.
Michael Hutchinson, whatever his name was. Hutchins.
Sal comes from kind of a musical family, so he knows his music and his history and trivia for sure.
Proletarian, what's going on, buddy? Boo Luck says, "Hey Frank, is Pepitone locked up or is he home? I went to school with this nut."
Anthony Pepitone. I don't know. I don't know. I know Anthony. I knew Anthony, but I don't know. Yeah, Sal, didn't that guy die doing some funny sexual things to himself?
Hutchins?
Yeah.
I don't know. What did they say? He was doing like autoerotic asphyxiation or something?
I don't even know what the fuck you said, but yeah, something like that.
Well, that's when you get off on suffocating and blah, blah. They say that, what's his name, did that. Shit. What the hell's his name? Carradine. David Carradine.
Oh, wow. Kung Fu?
Said that maybe, possibly,
Kung Fu did that to himself. Jesus Christ. Roro, what's up, babe? I think
Silverchair. Wow.
Yeah, Joe Puzzles. I knew he'd gotten in trouble. Anthony is like the other side of that spectrum. When we're talking about fucking scumbag kids, he was a good kid. We just hung out with a scumbag kid who was into a lot of stupid shit, robbing friends. I think he cut a special needs kid's hand because they were doing a phony making ceremony. They thought it was funny, so the guy was walking around with a fucking gash the size of his head. Poor kid. They thought that was funny. One of them urinated on a girl that was drunk.
Oh my God.
Yep. So you're gonna hear all about a lot of these fantastic people.
Jason Diamond, thank you, my man. 1999 from Jason Diamond. Thank you, buddy. Much appreciated. Thank you, bud.
Jason. Oh, Jason. You called him Justin last time.
Did we?
Yeah, Grasshopper choked himself in the closet with his prick in his head. Grasshopper, David Carradine. You didn't know that, did you?
Yeah. Well, that's why they thought, they found him in the closet in the hotel room or something like that.
I like that. Sally Bross, adopted son.
Sally Bross, adopted son.
Like it. Hey, guys, Frank, like the new name. Think Lewis has Casman.
Think Lewis has Casman.
What's up, Brett? Who's that?
What's going on, Sally Bross?
Oh, the adopted son. Yeah, I got you. John Gotti's adopted son. You definitely if it's, I know who it is. It's definitely so. And I got your message. Don't think I forget. I got you, brother. I got you. Good people right there. Very good people.
Men at Work. Oh, they're still on that Australia kick.
Men
All
at
right,
Work,
all right,
it
all
was
right.
fucking
Jason
awesome.
Diamond. Yeah, we got you right. Justin Diamond. Yeah.
I got one.
I think you were thinking of Dustin Diamond. That's why you
Who's Dustin Diamond? It sounds familiar.
Screech.
Oh, fuck. Why would I know him? Saved by the Bell, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Midnight Oil. Oh, who? Ooh, Pat. Yes, we said it at the same time, Pat. Shit, Midnight Oil. The beds are burning. So what time we got? Let me get these guys up here.
We got Dr. James behind the scenes if you want to bring him on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Tell him to bring the rest of the guys. If
You're ready, James, give me a thumbs up. I don't know if you're looking at something. Good, ready to roll. Okay, cool. Ladies and gentlemen, you know him well. He's been on our show quite often. He's one of the, I think, probably the most favorite guests that we have on here. He's been on here so many times, I remembered how to spell his name. I don't even have to look his name up anymore when I put it in the title. 2 C's, 2 L's. Dr. James Buccellato.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
What's going on, man?
What's
I'm
up,
doing well.
What's
How
going
are
on?
you?
Sorry, Frank. I called Frank, and I after I talked to him, I realized it was after 7 o'clock, so I hope I didn't interrupt the show. I didn't realize.
No,
it
you're
was
good. You're good. No.
We're not that sophisticated here.
All good. All good.
Oh, good. All right. Good to see you guys. Hey, so you were talking about Australia. Did you mention AC/DC? I'm sorry. I was looking at
Of course.
something.
That's
Yeah,
my
yeah,
favorite.
yeah.
That was the first. Okay.
We were trying to
Yeah.
find some more. I think we got Kylie Minogue, Men at Work,
Midnight
apparently
Oil.
NXS.
Yeah,
I don't know who else.
I can't think of any other than that.
Yeah.
Okay, we
but,
got anybody coming up?
by the way,
No,
last night I went to see Wu-Tang and Run the Jewels here in
Oh,
Detroit.
sick.
Yeah.
How was it? Obviously, it was
pretty rad.
amazing, right?
Yeah. Run the Jewels was actually, I thought they were a little, I mean, body of work. Obviously, I like Wu-Tang better, but just in terms of performance, I thought Run the Jewels were really impressive last night. But the whole concert was great.
That's LP and Killer Mike. Is that what that is?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Cool.
And yeah, it's good. Olivia Newton-John. Yeah.
Olivia Newton-John,
I said
Russell
that one,
Crowe.
too.
They're still going on about. Anybody ever seen Romper Stomper with Russell Crowe? Anybody? Old school.
I seen Romper Stomper years ago.
yeah.
I didn't know he was in it though.
Yeah.
That's a skinhead movie.
Yes. Yeah, that's an old one.
Yeah.
That is,
So
all right, we
where's
got
the fellas?
we got someone else backstage here. Say it again.
You see anybody over there backstage?
Yes. I guess we'll let them come in.
Sure.
You should and do one on Martin Basso Heart hit by Todd LaBarca. All right. Martin Basso Heart. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, our next guest is going to be coming on the screen. We'll welcome him to the show. We'll let him introduce himself. And I believe somebody else is coming on. Is that correct?
That's right. Eric and Griffin.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Griffin to the show. Hello, sir. How are you? Introduce yourself. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My name is Griffin. I'm very interested in researching the Bonanno family, particularly in the 1960s during the Bonanno War. I also, like decades kind of on the peripheral, so 40s to 60s, 70s. But yeah, I've been a passion project for the last 5 or so years, so I'm excited to join and talk about it.
Thank you for being with us. Thank you.
We call him Professor Griff.
Yeah.
Like in Public Enemy.
Yeah. Nice to see you, Jimmy, again.
Hey, Griff.
Hey,
All right,
man.
so
Nice to see you, bud.
Nice to see you too, Frank. Thank you.
we're waiting for one more person. So, Griffin, where are you from, man, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I live in Los Angeles, but I was actually originally born in Arizona. So that was kind of where, when I started getting into the Mafia, I found out Joe Bonanno lived there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Was based out of there. So that's how I got into that family and then just kept on going.
Very
West
cool.
Coast
Very
mob.
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Are you from Tucson, Griff? I don't remember.
Well, I was born in
Hearing that.
Scottsdale, but we lived in Phoenix and Tucson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we still have family in Tucson.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that for some reason, or
Yeah.
I forgot.
You ever run into Sammy over there at all? Or
We did, yeah. We actually
No.
did went to that the restaurant that he had when I was a kid.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
What was the name of it? Sal's or something?
Uncle Sal's. Yeah,
Sal's.
Really?
something
Wow.
like that. Yeah, my grandpa is big into all the mob stuff too, so he
Really?
loved going there. Yeah,
Nah,
Was
that's
it any good? Do you remember? Or
he's pretty good. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
interesting. Wow.
Yeah. Did he look like this? Show him a clip of what Sammy
Oh
looked like.
no, you want to start? I don't know. I got so
John
many.
Yeah.
Gotti was not gay.
I don't know.
That's my favorite. That's my new favorite.
All right, Griffin's backstage, guys. Not Griffin, I mean, I'm sorry.
Eric.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had to scroll down. I'm not used to this many people. I apologize. Let's welcome our next guest to the screen. Eric, what's going on, buddy? Thanks for joining us.
Hey,
tonight.
you could just leave a picture of Sammy up for me. You know?
You're the one I've been looking for.
Yeah.
Good for Eric. Thanks for.
Thanks for coming, Eric.
Glad to be here, guys. Good to see you again, Frank. Everybody.
Yes, amen.
Nice to meet you. So, introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit about you.
Yeah, my name's Eric. I've been part of the show Mob Archeologists, which Frank's been on, Griffin's been on, Jimmy. We're on a bit of a hiatus, but we've done that. I do a blog called Mafia Bloodlines, Society Unto Themselves. Just a part of the research community, for lack of a better word. Just love the subject, love it all. Happy to be here. I like focusing on like some of the Sicilian connections, the history. I'm interested in all of it, honestly. Yeah.
Very cool, man. Thanks.
Yeah,
once again,
thank
for
you.
joining
Thank
us.
you for coming.
Yeah.
If we start with you, right? Background on the 60s Bonanno War, for us that I know way more than I do, but even for the people on the chat, give us an idea what happened. What was the catalyst? What brought that together? And why?
Yeah, I can kind of get started. So basically, as the Bonanno talks about it in his book, obviously from his point of view, but kind of as they go into the 60s, Bonanno starts feeling more isolated from the other members of the commission and starts spending more time in Arizona. But then there's a couple of infractions that he's accused of doing, like making members in Canada. His son Bill Bonanno apparently trying to take over the LA family sometime in the early 60s. And then kind of the one that I think gets him ultimately kind of called in was the shelving of Gaspar Di Gregorio.
Right.
Who is, yeah. And so they try to meet with him, but he keeps ducking them, doesn't want to come in. And so they basically shelve him and the family. They kind of kick him out of the commission and stop recognizing them. And that kind of leads to crisis of leadership. Di Gregorio comes in as the new leader. Bonanno does this, quote unquote kidnapping. He gets kidnapped and it goes away for a couple years. And Bill's kind of left to try and fight for his family's position again. So kind of just a lot of high level politics. It's not really about rackets or money. It's more about who's recognized, who's boss, who people should be loyal to. But yeah, that's kind of a broad overview. I'm sure maybe Eric can talk a bit more about it or anything I might have missed.
And I got you. And the thing that always hit me was about Lilo, Carmine Galante. If he was there, if he was there when that war had happened, if he was out, if he doesn't go to jail in 1964, does that war take place?
Yeah, it's a good question. Definitely a good what if. The crew that on the files I've seen, and when they talk about it, the most inside information we get is kind of from the former Galante crew. We get a lot of people talking about the different members of that. So he had obviously a large crew and had a lot of pull within the family. So he could have at least, even though the commission might have still tried to push him out, who knows? It could also be that the family stays more in line with Bonanno. But there was also quite a few members. There's other, Castellamare guys who very like Di Gregorio, obviously, and then some of the Aceros kind of quickly go against Bonanno. So there was a split even among that faction of who to support.
I'm sorry. Can you name some of the players that were involved at that time on the Di Gregorio side and let's say the Bonanno side? What did that look like?
Yeah, so Di Gregorio, well, I guess maybe Bonanno's probably the one to start with. So it's a lot of his family, obviously his son Bill, his brother-in-law Frank Labrizzo, who was kind of actually an acting boss for a time before all this happened. He kind of stepped in to help run the family. Him and another relative by marriage, John Morales, Johnny Burns, as they call him.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of like family members or like Bonanno's other in-laws. And then a lot of the family kind of falls in the middle. But then you have on Di Gregorio's side, I'm trying to think, Paul Shaka, who would eventually become boss. Yeah, he's on his side. Yeah, some of the
Rastelli?
Aceros.
Where's Rastelli at that point? If you guys can help.
Yeah, Rastelli would definitely kind of fell on the Di Gregorio side.
Gotcha.
Definitely more towards the end. He was a soldier at that point. He wouldn't become a captain until a bit later.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and at that point too, one thing I want to add is like initially a lot more guys supported Bonanno, and then the commission pulled the rug out from underneath them, and they said, you know, anybody who supports Bonanno, we're not going to recognize them. They're basically shelved. We know from the DeCavalcante tapes they were like cutting guys out of union jobs. So they, you know, if guys were supportive of Bonanno, they got the rug pulled out from underneath them, and then they you know, ended up, looks like my mic's a little too loud, but they ended up, you know, leaving Bonanno after that.
Wow. Oh, all right. And James, I mean, after all this is going on, like let's say, like when Bonanno's out of the picture, and I think I know he leaves in '68, right? '68, he gets exiled, if you will, for lack of words. But what happens now? Does the Gregorio side split in half and start going after each other? I don't get it. There was guys that were cool with each other. You had Frankie Mary's dad, the Adamo guy, and then all of a sudden they're not cool with each other no more. Something's going on then. So what happened there?
Yeah, I mean, some of them try to become like neutral, right, Griff? Like they start off Di Gregorio, but then are like trying to stay out of it, sort of.
Yeah, Di Gregorio doesn't seem to have been able to really gotten the family behind him. He was kind of weak, and you know, like a lot of these guys at this point, they have health problems, so he's not able to really go out and get the different warring factions together. So yeah, like while you have Bonanno, the Bonanno side is pretty well, even though they're kind of fewer in number, they're more cohesive as opposed to Di Gregorio's, which is more, as Eric was saying. So I think some were on his side initially, but then a lot of it was out of convenience, more political. Like as Eric was saying, oh, we're not going to be recognized. We're going to get kind of pushed out of different rackets. But yeah, even while Bonanno's still there, there's different factions. Like Di Gregorio gets pulled down, and then yeah, you have Frankie Mari coming in to become more of a leader. Paul Shaka as well. Joe Ziccarelli from New Jersey. He's also a bigger player at this time. You know, a lot of the Galante crew members, a lot of them come up to start being more players within the family.
Yeah, and there's other plays too. Like, and I don't know, there was somebody in my neighborhood who was a very knock around tough guy, May guy. That was Vito Lacata. He gets killed in '72. Actually, Sal Accardi's dad, God rest his soul, John Accardi, was good friends. He's on our chat, by the way. Was good friends with Vito Lacata Sr. He had a son who passed away not too long ago. And what part did he? I never came to, like, people would talk about him, but they'll talk about him like, oh yeah, you know, he was this guy, Ugrijo, they called him, the gray guy, the South put it there. But they would always talk about him like in a sense that they would talk about, let's say, Vito Guzzo when I was a kid, without explaining what Vito Guzzo was doing. So he was a very active member. What do you guys got on him?
This is Vito Lacata?
Right, the one who gets killed at the pool hall.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. There is some report that does say it's like lists like members who have died, like a member informant or someone just saying like these are members of the Bonanno family who died, and he's listed as one. And then I know he does get kind of called into some of the grand juries about the Bonanno family, the Bonanno split. So he was definitely involved, or at least in that. He's already, of course, in that world. But in terms of what kind of stuff he did, I don't have enough on him.
Right. He was my Uncle John Fertolino's Gumbada. He baptized his daughter Barbara, and so they were always thick as thieves back then. So was Tony Aiello and his Gumbada, which was my cousin Joe Pizzo, and they were around that time. They were very active in a lot of more ways than one. My Uncle Cheech comes after in '68 after that. But what do you guys about another like big deal that happened during that war was the '67, I think in the '67 Cypress Gardens hit.
Yeah.
And was that kind of a turnaround for what happened there?
Yeah, it's definitely the most violent the war ever got. The war doesn't really start getting violent, or people don't start dying until I think that point. There's some shootings that there's an attempted hit on Bill and then Frank Mari. But yeah, that's one. The vibe or the timeline kind of goes that Smitty D'Angelo, who was a big player in the Bonannos before the split, he was close to the underboss, John Morales. He's one of those fence hoppers. He kind of goes back and forth. He initially goes away from Bonanno, and then he goes back. And then he goes, when Shaka becomes boss, he's, I believe, the consigliere for a short time. And so for whatever, he becomes a high-rated target. And so for some reason, the Bonannos take that moment to strike. They kill him, an associate, Frankie 500, forget his last name, but then also
Leary.
Yeah, something like that. And then one of the Smitty D'Angelo is his brother.
Yeah, who's collateral damage.
I think he was. I don't think he was a member. Some of the other D'Angelo brothers were like involved, but I think he was one of the innocent ones. Just happened to be there.
I know I know two of them. The old man Joe, and then there was the other one. I forgot. I think Scotty, his name was, or nickname.
Yeah, Scotty was one. Yeah,
but Joe, I knew very well. I remember one time he called me up to bring him cigarettes up to the hospital because he was old. But yeah, these are people who grew up in our neighborhood. That's why I love having you guys here talk about these people, because believe it or not, there's people listening right now, and they're like, "Wow, what none of us could bring to light. You guys have a better, better articulation than I do, anyway."
One thing I want to add about the Cypress Gardens hit is the suspect in that, who's believed to have pulled the trigger, was Gaspare Magadino, who he'd been the boss of Castellamare before he came to the U.S. And so he's the boss of Castellamare. He's Joe Bonanno's cousin. He comes to the U.S. and he's doing hits. He was suspected in an earlier hit, too, of a guy, Alberto Galante. So that's an interesting angle. The boss of Castellamare comes here and he's committing murders himself,
Yeah, no, right, exactly. But I've heard we discussed this already with you guys. I've heard other theories about it. One that me and Vito Grimaldi one time, he just in jest was like, we know who did it, and then like he pointed to me like one of your uncles and your uncle, and then I kind of like had to put one and one together, two and two together, because my Uncle Cheech wasn't here at 67. He came in 68, and the other one was always in and out of the United States. I think I told James already. I see my uncle. So I want to get into that. Believe me, that's one of my questions. But
we'll get to it.
My uncle was my Uncle Cheech wasn't here yet, but my Uncle John was, and I don't get to see him. There he goes.
Yeah.
And I don't get to see my Uncle John till maybe I'm 5 or 6 years old, or remember him anyway. Always something was going on, and it was always quiet when he was around. Really, really happy guy, because I didn't know what the hell he was up to. But always like see him now and then. And that was the rumor, okay? Now thinking back, he was very good with a gun. Very good with a gun. All my father's brothers were. They were hunters. They grew up in the mountains, and they had the same build that described. If you, my uncle had a stocky build, like the one the long coat. They described whoever that guy was, and I don't see the boss of fucking Castlava going in there doing the hit on him by himself. You know what I mean? I just don't. I'm not saying that I'm trying to give kudos because it's my uncle. I could care less. I can because I actually know the family.
So if I can jump in, so the people that are killed at the massacre are members of the Di Gregorio faction, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, or kind of when Paul Shaka is becoming the boss, but yeah, like the breakaway rebel faction.
So then, if Gaspar Magaddino and or Giovanni Fiorellino are involved, then they are with the Joe Bonanno faction, which would be interesting politically, because Joe Bonanno claims that his cousin Gaspar Magaddino, who was the boss of Castellamare, and the reason why he was in the United States is he was tried in absentia in Italy for narcotics trafficking. He flees Italy, comes to the United States, so he's like on the lam. But Joe Bonanno always said that Gaspar sided with him, not Stefano Magaddino. And that was a big point for Joe Bonanno to say that even the Magadinos side with me against their own blood. So
yeah.
So what do you guys make of the politics of that? Was Frank's uncle and Gaspar Magaddino with Joe Bonanno's faction?
I thought that John Fiordolino was originally with Di Gregorio. I'm not totally sure, but I do know that like Pietro Magaddino, who was Gaspare's brother, he was in Buffalo and then he moves to New York and he sides with Joe Bonanno. So it seems like both the brothers, Gaspare and Pietro, were with Bonanno for sure. I'm not totally sure with Frank's uncle.
Yeah, John definitely was part of the Di Gregorio faction. There's actually a report from someone close by, who I think might have been Frank Labrizzo, who was Joe Bonanno's brother-in-law. He kind of giving like a rundown of the different characters during this time. And then he talks about John Fiordolino and says that he's a rising star with Di Gregorio. It's interesting because the informant says very explicitly that he's not using like the term capo regime or captain, but uses the term rising star. So they kind of take that to mean, okay, Fiordolino is now a captain under Di Gregorio. So yeah, Fiordolino would have definitely been on the Di Gregorio camp for sure.
But then I know, sorry, go on, Frank.
No, I didn't say no.
I was just going to say,
go ahead, Eric.
Luigi Roncesvalli, you know all about Frank.
We're gonna get to that. Believe me. I have a friend of mine who reminded me, don't forget about Luigi. There we go. We're gonna get to him.
But he did say that he was told that they brought Sicilians over to help Joe Bonanno, I think, right? Am I right, Griffin? Was it they were brought to help the Bonanno faction?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was something I've talked about to Frank before, and you guys as well, that he specifically testified that the Buccellato family specifically sent hitmen to New York to help Joe Bonanno in this conflict. So what do you, Frank? What do you make of it?
Bullshit. I mean, this is the guy they used to clown around at this pizza place on Knickerbocker Avenue. The guy Panuccio Strunzo owned the place. Sal knew who I'm talking about. And he used to think that this guy Panuccio was the Guana. What's his name? The Guana?
Pino de Guana, yeah.
Yeah, he thought he was a fucking gangster and everything. The guy, he could have been, but what he did something back then that was pretty shitty. And that's how he got the name. He left his family for fucking his wife's cousin and moved to America. And you don't do that back then. That's like, now maybe you could get away with it in today's mob. But back then, it earned him that nickname, which Joe the Shithead. Of course, nobody said it to him. Nobody said to him, but this guy here, you got Razzavelli tell you about how Joe the Shithead is the guy who runs the families. Yeah, he got it right on the Buccellato side. Who didn't know that Buccellatos were who they were? But so they twist them around. They laughed at him. They played him.
Yeah. Just to follow up on that point, and I think to kind of confirm what you're saying, Frank, or to just sow some doubt about his testimony there. Different in the FBI reports that I've seen, there's a reference to Bill Bonanno coming back to New York at some point, and has a bunch of guys around with him, but they're from Texas and Arizona. And then he has like 50 guys on his side, and most of them are Irish. And the guys who we know, like the actual Italian guys who we know, like Hank Perrone or Carlo Samari, like they are from Brooklyn. They're not imported. So while definitely, there was, of course, some Sicilian migration to Brooklyn in the 60s, I don't know, other than Gaspar Magaddino, if that is the case, they didn't import in a bunch of muscle from Sicily, it seems like. Or it seems like they pulled most of it from Americans.
Yeah. No, of course, they're already here. We talked about that already. Especially
he ends up getting killed in Brooklyn later. What's the deal with that, you guys? Can you talk about that? Gaspar Magaddino?
It's unsolved. I mean, it's very intriguing. I mean, we don't know what that's about. I mean, was that related to the so-called banana split? Was it whatever, some kind of spillover? I've always had a hypothesis. It's just a hypothesis. I can't prove it. That it may have had something to do with Castellamare. that somebody didn't want him coming back. I just have a sense. So I'm throwing that out there too.
You're not supposed to get involved. Like there was a rule in place that the Sicilian side isn't supposed to meddle in the American side. So he might have been in trouble for getting involved in the war.
Which we're going to get to you about that subject, because I know you're very good at that right there, the Sicilian and American relations. But before I get to that, I want to talk about Pete Lacata, not the one that's Pedro Lacata, not the one that's related to the Lacatas, the two brothers who get killed in '82, and Vito. They're all brothers. There's three of them. I say the four Lacatas, but one's not related. I'm talking about the captain that gets killed. What do you guys have on him?
Yeah, in the 1930s, he was from San Ciparello, which is next to San Giuseppiato. And in his FBI file, it says he was a member there in the 1930s. He got caught up in the Mussolini crackdown. San Giuseppiato, San Ciparello, just a hotbed of mafia activity. Yeah. Mussolini and Mori and those guys really cracked down on that area. Eventually comes here. There's a report that he was actually a captain already under Bonanno, and Bonanno demoted him. I know Griffin, I think I got that from Griffin. And then later he becomes captain of the Knickerbocker crew and then gets killed.
Griff?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I seem to recall reading something. I don't know if it was that exact, but that he had been demoted by Bonanno. And then obviously it comes up later. But I think during the split and during the 60s, I'm not sure kind of what his trajectory is.
Gotcha.
Let me ask you guys, because the official narrative you see in a lot of the literature, the mainstream literature, is that he was killed because he was one of the prominent Bonannos against narcotics trafficking. But it seems like more likely he was killed because the Sicilians wanted to take over his the card games and his gambling operations. What do you guys make of, in terms of why he was killed?
I mean, I think he was a stick in the mud. I know that there was a wiretap of Frank Labruzzo, Joe Bonanno's brother-in-law, where it talks about how the old man Pete, who seems to be a reference to him, was the only one who didn't congratulate Labruzzo when he got promoted. Yeah. He seems to get a reputation for just being kind of, an old stick in the mud. They always want to say that this guy protested drugs and this, he was a suspected drug trafficker himself.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. Good point.
People used to say, and I knew his son, John, very well, very, very well, like family at one point with my family, and really good guy. I was too young to know Pedro Lacata, but the thing used to be around that when he was back on the street, he used to walk around Knickerbocker Avenue like Fanucci.
Godfather.
Yeah, he used to dress around like that, and just with the coat, looking at people and doing his gangster thing, or gangster lean or whatever the hell you want to call it. But he was doing that kind of stuff. Now, the rumor out on the streets was when I was growing up a little bit after was that Leonardo Coppola actually took him out instead. Okay, a lot of people don't know that, and well, people who were out there knew, and it was on behalf of Palma Galante. Just didn't like him; he was in his way. It might probably pissed him off along the way or whatever. And to that defense, like John was good friends with the John the son was very good friends with the guys who allegedly put the Catalano family. They were friends even up to. They're probably still friends up to today. So I don't think it was the Catalano guy who had something to do with that as much as it was always rumored that Coppola killed Pedro Lacata or Baldo or Caesar or any of them together. It was him in particular.
Yeah, John Licata went to Sicily with Sal Catalano during the Pizza Connection stuff. It's in one of those books. It's in one of the Pizza Connection books. There's a picture of John Licata and Sal Catalano meeting with some guys in Sicily. So obviously there was no bad blood there.
Yeah. No, there wasn't, and I used to see it all the time. They were very close. I think one of my ex-friend's dad is in that picture, Filippo Ragusa, and I know which picture you're talking about. It wasn't one of those either the Octopus, Claire Sterling's, or Last Days of the Sicilians, one or the other. But I know the picture you're talking about.
Yeah, I've got the books here. I'm trying to see if I can find it.
This is a question for you, James. Not to get off topic. So my family was close with Claudio Di Maria. What was the reason? What happened there? What was the reason or rumored that he had gotten killed? I read through Your Guy's World. I read that kind of motive. I don't have one, so.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the his DEA files here, and as you guys well know, most of it's redacted. There's not a lot of information in here, unfortunately, but it does say that he owned it. Frank, I don't know if you remember this or heard of it. I guess you would have been too young, but the Extra Bar Cafe at 125 Avenue in Brooklyn. Is that you remember that was it a pizzeria or what was it, a social club?
It was a smaller coffee shop compared to the other
shop. Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the big thing that he's known for is the murder of a judge in Sicily, Judge Chacho Montado, and he was in New York, and he flies to Italy. They assassinate the judge, and then he comes home, and I think within like 24 hours, he's executed in his own place, and he's a suspected drug trafficker, and the people that he's the hit squad that they suspect in Sicily, this is in the early 1980s, are also names we know from Castellamare. One of them is Farina, Ambrosio Farina, and then the Avola brothers. So these are all names that are familiar to people who study this stuff. But Di Maria, he's an intriguing guy. I'm not sure why. It's very intriguing that he would be flown all the way to Italy for an assassination, and then within like a day comes home and gets hit himself. I don't know if it's he owed money and they didn't want to pay him for. I don't know. There's not a lot in the DEA files, unfortunately.
Gotcha. The narrative I've gotten was that he was better off dead, after killing that judge. I remember him. I remember when my brother passed away. Him and my dad went to Pennsylvania to identify my brother's body. He was always, he was always close to my family. He was like a relative for sure. Big guy. He looked like Tex Cobb. Remember Tex Cobb, the boxer?
No.
Yeah, he had that bushy and the handlebar mustache.
That's interesting. I've never seen a picture of him, so I appreciate those descriptions. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's what he looked like. He was a very likable guy. God rest his soul. God rest his soul.
What do you mean by better off dead, if I may ask? What do you mean by that?
Well, who knows? Did he kill the people? The people who sent them figured that they'd kill him and just you know how they do sometimes. They don't want they try to kill all leads. You know what I mean?
I see. Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
Farina, they killed Farina too, and but I think that was more. That was later on. I think that was more of the Totorina faction, taking out people from the old guard, and the Avila brothers. They killed them too.
They killed them both.
In '90. Yeah.
What do you have on them, Grip? Eric?
This is Calogero Di Maria.
Yeah, and the Avila brothers. I'm saying back home.
I've never heard of Di Maria, honestly. I've heard of the Avila brothers.
Sure.
I wondered if they were related to Natale Joe Diamond, the Bonanno. He was the Bonanno boss for a while.
For a minute, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have much on them. I just know they were active in Castellamare.
One of the brothers is Natal. That's the same name too. So I have to think. I don't know for sure, but I presume they're related somehow to him. But I don't know for sure. It seems pretty conspicuous. They would, two Natal Avilas would both be involved in this world, but I'm not sure. But yeah, they were. I think the Avila brothers kind of became the de facto bosses of Castellamare after Nino Buccellato was killed. But then we know Totorina, like this kind of like Stalinist or Maoist purge. Then he went after all the people that helped him in the first place. Right?
Oh yeah.
He gets rid of them. He gets rid of them too. So I think that's what happened with the Avila brothers. And
yeah,
I mean, I think we know who like wanted them out of the way, but I don't know if Frank wants to talk about it because his wife is,
His wife is my cousin.
Right.
but I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at her crime.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. She's infamous too.
Yeah. She's hey, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
She wanted Hollywood money. You can't blame her.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some info that maybe the Castellamare family was placed under Alcamo for a while in the 80s too. I've seen some stuff that indicates they definitely lost like the Mondamento seat. The Mondamento is like multiple families in the same area. But I've come across some stuff that suggests Castellamare like wasn't recognized and they had to report to Alcamo.
Always. I think it was always like that since I can remember. What puts them on the map is the New York Castellamares, the ones in Castellamare del Golfo. But it was always the power always came from Alcamo since, to my knowledge anyway, since after World War II, right, James?
Well, yeah, I mean that's why. Nino Buccellato marries Vincenzo Rimi's daughter, and that I think that was a strategically important. And there's even a thing in Honor Thy Father, the Gay Talese book that I think it was that book that the Bonanno, Magadino, Bonventres were upset with the Buccellatos for conspiring with Amici and other towns. And so this could even go back even way before World War II of clans in Castellamare reaching out to Alcamo, Trapani, to form strategic alliances to help them within their own rivalries at home, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Donnie likes my head. Which one, Donnie? Donnie said my head is huge. That's good. Hey, you gotta take the good with the bad, right?
Go ahead, Eric. Eric, you were gonna jump in.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's the thing. Like these Campesani groups, they're close together, like Alcamo and Castellamare. But we know from Mafia history, even in the U.S., that these people from the same village really stuck to their own. And even though there's intermarriage and stuff, there's often really intense rivalries between neighboring towns. And it seems like Alcamo and Castellamare always had that going on. They're always kind of competing for dominance.
Yeah, they there's a lot of rivalries there too. between just the regular folks over there. They even have similar. You could tell when somebody's Archimedes from Castellamariz just by the way they talk. It's kind of weird, and they're right next to each other. But this for you, Eric. The next one. And a lot of people are gonna like this, so don't go nowhere, people in the chat. One of the famous Castellamariz Americans we have in the past 20 years is somebody you're very interested in and know a lot about. Him and his family is Vinny Asaro, and how. So you people want to know how far Vinny Asaro's family goes into Sicilian Cosa Nostra? Let him have it.
Yeah, and Jimmy, feel free to jump in because he and I have talked a lot about this case, but this goes back 130 years. In Castellammare in 1896, there was a murder of an estate guard, Giovanni Costa. He was not affiliated with the mob. He ran into trouble with the local mafiosi, though. And this investigation, it didn't just uncover how this murder played out. It uncovered the local family at the time. And the Castellammare family, this is 1896, was led by a guy, Giovanni Ingaglia, and his son, Stefano, was helping him. They gave the murder contract to Girolamo Acero, who is Vinny's great-grandfather. The naming tradition, Vinny's father was Jerry. He was named for this guy because that was his grandfather.
Gerard, yeah.
Vinny's son, Jerry. This all comes from Girolamo. I'm going to butcher these names. I'm sorry. Girolamo. So Girolamo was someone in a leadership position in Castellammare. He was given the murder contract. He gives the actual murder itself to Martino Buccellato. So this ties in not just to New York, it ties into Jimmy's, ancestors as well. Martino Buccellato ends up killing this guy with a shotgun. The investigation uncovered that he was actually getting membership for doing this. So he was making his bones, Martino Buccellato. Turns out Martino Buccellato was the brother of Felice Buccellato, Joe Bonanno's godfather, who was also the boss of Castellammare. The investigation identified a bunch of leaders of the family at that time. There were two Buccellatos. There was Giovanni Buccellato, who was Martino and Felice's father. There was also Salvatore Buccellato, and these guys were up to a lot of trouble.
Hey, be careful when you're talking about him. I have reasons to be sensitive about that.
Sure, yeah.
That's my great great grandfather. That's why I'm just
talking about Salvatore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what that investigation found? He stole a dog. They were stealing donkeys, dogs. So you got to be careful around Jimmy, guys. Jimmy might steal your dog.
Runs in the family.
Vietnamese.
What's that?
What is he, Vietnamese, stealing dogs?
That was a good guard. It was a good guard dog.
By a pub place.
There's no evidence they ate the dog. Okay.
No. These are guard dogs. They would steal guard dogs to they were like sheep herders, whatever, goats, things like that. So
goat bangers.
Someone had a good sheep, good guard dog, you steal it.
Well, and before they killed this guy too, as a warning, this estate guard who they ran into trouble with, they thought he was going to inform. They actually smeared shit on his water tank as a warning, and then then they ultimately killed him, and then Martino Buccellato dies. He disappears, and Felice Buccellato, again, Joe Bonanno's godfather, who later becomes boss, he threatens Costa's family with a knife, basically like, you guys caused this trouble. Girolamo Acero, he flees, and he starts living in New York under a fake name. He gets arrested in 1908 by Joe Petrosino, the famous.
Of course.
Yeah, he's actually the one who goes into the saloon and arrests him. Apparently, Acero was writing extortion letters. When they arrest him, they find letters on him. One of the letters is from Stefano Megadino, not the Buffalo boss, but the uncle who Joe Bonanno talks about a lot in his book and says he might have been the boss of Castellammare. In this letter, they talk about all kinds of organizational stuff. Megadino says he refers to this oath you made me take. So Acero might have sponsored Megadino for membership. They talk about some kind of conflict in Castellammare involving the father of Vito Bonventri. And this is the Vito Bonventuri who gets killed in 1930.
In
And
here, in New York.
Yeah. So something happened to Vito Bonventuri's father, and Megadino says it didn't come from us. And then he trashes Vito Bonventuri. I think he calls him a venomous goat. And so they have the best insults, you know. And it's funny though, because in Joe Bonanno's book, he talks about how the younger Stefano Megadino, the Buffalo boss, didn't get along with Vito Bonventuri. So like all these problems between the clans, like they seem to go back to older generations, which is funny. These aren't just these guys; it's also their ancestors had trouble. But Girolamo Acero, like it's clear he is a high-ranking member in New York now, and the guy who bails him out is Carlo Costantino, who's from Party Nico, and Angelo and Rick and my other collaborators. They were able to determine that the early Bonanno leadership were these guys from Campo Reale and Party Nico, and Carlo Costantino was one of the top guys. So he gets bailed out by this guy from Party Nico, who then was a suspect in the Petrosino murder. And then Acero, he doesn't get extradited, and he ends up moving to Boston, where he dies in a house fire. And so this is Vinny Acero's great grandfather. You know, we know
That's
all these
crazy.
Aceros, you know, in Bonanno history, but
Yeah,
it goes back at least 130 years.
I think if I can jump in, something Frank may find interesting, that thing where you talk about where Felice Buccellato, that's Martino's older brother, Joe Bonanno's godfather. I know it gets confusing if you're out there watching this, but when he puts the knife to the guy's throat, I think it's Giuseppe Navarra who intervenes, isn't it? And tells Felice like not here. In other words, so like that's a name that Frank I know is aware of. So I don't know who Giuseppe Navarra was in 19 whatever, but like this would be early 1900s. But apparently he's the one who's with Felice who intervenes and is like don't knife this guy here, and like de-escalates it.
No, yeah, I get it. There was like 2 sets of Navarras in my town, and the only Joe Navarra I knew was a painter, and that was back in Ridgewood. So anybody listening probably know who I'm talking about. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, that's dying out. I don't think there's much lineage that goes back that far that still have family that's active today. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how far we went. You guys know better than we do, you know. But I obviously the road ended with me, but and I hope it ends with anybody else in my family. But that's where we go, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff about your family I uncovered, like in some parliamentary reports in Italy after World War II, and your family is just identified in general as like a family that should be taken seriously, involved in I think like maybe cattle theft, horse theft, things like
right. that. That's about right. Goat fucking. No, I'm just kidding.
Something else I want to add real quick. One of the other guys identified in that 1896 case was as one of the leading members in Castellamare was Giuseppe Bonanno, who was Joe Bonanno's uncle. And he talks about him quite a bit in his book, Pepe Bonanno. And he says he was the one who took over basically leadership of their clan in the local mafia. He ends up getting killed, Joe Bonanno says, in the war with the Buccellatos. And just to be clear, I'm on the Buccellato side.
That's right.
That's
right. That's right.
But yeah, it's interesting. These names connect all throughout the history of the Bonanno family. This is Sicily in the 1890s, and we see Vinny Acero's direct ancestors. We see Jimmy's people. We see Joe Bonanno's uncle. I've never come across the Ingaglias elsewhere, the guys who are leading the family, but we have 3 really important clans from both sides of the ocean in this case, you know.
And what was the other name? I can never pronounce it correctly. Andragna?
Oh, the Andragna, yeah.
Andragna, yeah. There was a guy in Detroit who was connected to the Detroit Buccellatos with that last name. And I'm talking again early 1900s. But that's another name that's intriguing because I don't really see that again in Castellamare other than these documents. I don't see it in like anything post World War II. But sometimes some families are involved and they just are not anymore. Whereas
Yeah,
like
those guys were from Ultimo. They were
oh okay
Ultimos.
okay.
Yeah, they ended up coming to the U.S. and I think
No, that's Tom. That's not we're not talking about the Calabrian
Okay.
mafia.
We have I don't mean-
Oscar.
that's Tom LaVecchia.
We're talking about an actual last name, not the not the
It was
Calabrian.
Adragna. But yeah, they were alchemists. And the father looks to have probably been a Bonanno member, and then his sons ended up being in like the Pittsburgh and San Jose families. But in the 1896 case, they say that the Castellamare family hid them out.
That's right.
So they were probably like in trouble in Alcamo, and so they got hid out in Castellamare.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah, you've cleared that up with me before, and I just my memory is not what it was. But now that you say
There's so many
that,
things to keep track of, dude.
Yeah,
There's so many
talked about
moving
it before.
pieces to this stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. That guys, this is great, man. So I'm gonna have like a Tom LaVecchia question. Brett, you're in on this one too. We don't want to lose you. How you doing right there? But I'm gonna ask you, if you had to meet a mobster or gangster or anybody in any time in history or whatever, who would it be? Who would it be? That's a Tom like LaVecchia ask. Sorry, Tom, I bit off your question, but who would it be? How about you? Let's start with James.
Me, I wish I would have been a more sophisticated researcher earlier. I would have gone to Tucson and tried to meet with Joe Bonanno because I did go to Tucson and I've met with some of the Bonanno ancestors, including Bill's wife, Rosalie. But Joe was he was already dead, and but he lived. What was he, like 90 something years old? 100. He was so. I only missed it by a bit, right? He wasn't dead that long. I wish I would have been a more sophisticated researcher. I would have gone to Tucson and tried to interview him directly, and I think he could have answered a lot of these questions. I mean, he obviously has his own agenda, but that would have been an interesting one for me. Joe Bonanno, I think I would pick.
Proletarian, he says, how far back do the Mulets go back in Castellamare? I don't know. I didn't know. I didn't know they were connected. I know who they are, the Castellamare's Mulets. But I didn't know. I don't know much about their organized crime history.
Yeah, I just know Vito Mule was an old-time Bonanno member. He's the oldest one I know of.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was, I think, one with San Francisco, and then maybe one with the Bonannos in Arizona. I want to say one of the name is Prospect, and
yeah, that was his son.
Yeah, but yeah,
one of my time was a shoemaker.
Sorry,
one of my time was a shoemaker, and he taught my brother how to play piano at a young age. Also do piano, but that's the only one I knew. No organized crime things, but go ahead, Griff. Who would you pick?
I think as Jimmy was saying, Bonanno would be really good, just because of, I think, even though he does, as he said, as an agenda, I do think he's mostly speaks about it in a honest, at least to him way, where I don't think he tries to. He may kind of be like kind of brush away the dark stuff, but he does organizationally in his book. He talks about a lot. Even in the Bonanno movie, and I think we've talked about it, me and Eric and Rick and some of the other guys, like there's some things in there that, while it's a movie, it's like a TV movie, there's still like bits of truth they were able to corroborate. So they're pretty truthful. I also think Stefano Magaddino would be a good one to talk with. Just reading those transcripts, it just goes all over the place, but he's another one where the breadth and width of what he knows and what he can talk about is pretty incredible.
So we got two Bonanno guys. Salacardi says, Lucky Luciano. They're priced like Frank Costello. Anybody out there, man, to join in on who's your goats or who you would want to meet? Eric, your turn.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to meet Joe Bonanno, but I feel like he'd have me doing favors for him. He'd have me, running errands. But it would be Nicola Gentile, who, if people aren't familiar, he wrote a memoir. He was made in the U.S. in like the early 1900s. He had high-ranking positions, moved all around the country. Then he went back to Sicily, wrote a memoir. His book is incredible. There's tons more questions I would ask him, though. He lived in Kansas City, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, New York. He knew so much. I'd just pick his brain.
Wow,
That's a good one.
Cool stuff.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. Brett, my co-host.
Well, you know me. Listen, I'm into wacky people. I mean, I understand Lucky Luciano and all this stuff. I like a lot of like
Yeah, you don't like the bullshit.
60s,
You
70s, 80s, 90s stuff. So I'm into like wacky, eccentric nut jobs. So
yeah.
I got a list. I mean, I don't know, somebody like a David Patillo or maybe like a Carmine DiBiase or like guys like that. Wacky guys, super eccentric, probably got 10 million screws loose in their head. Those are the type of guys I'd like to meet. I'd like to see what's going on with those guys. You know? But I understand, like, the Lucianos and Bonannos, of course. Yeah. But I think somebody crazy like that, I would like to sit down with and see what's going on up there.
I was gonna say, Brett, you would pick someone that might kill you.
Yeah, definitely. It would be somebody that might kill me. Yeah. Maybe Lepke or something. Like it's just a nut job. I like
David
stuff like that.
Patillo wouldn't just kill you; he'd do it dressed as a woman. So
Yeah. Probably, and then he might pimp me out or something. I don't know. Yeah.
I'm gonna pick a real doozy, and that's just because I'm kind of like on that spectrum with Brett. I'm gonna go with Fish. What's that? What's up, Fish? But I'm gonna go with Carmine Galante. Carmine Galante
is a good one. Yeah.
Carmine Galante is my guy. He's just a sick bastard. He would have made me laugh at the same time, and he would have made me shit my pants. So, so that's just the way I fucking. I don't know, man. It's something about him. I love when he's picking. When he's telling me he's gonna go upstate and pick up peppers and tomatoes on that. Little interview. Yeah.
With Roy Cohn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we were talking about movies, right, guys? And help me out here. Movies that never been made. What movie do you on our other show? What movie would you like to see about somebody's life? You know what I mean? And I mean, mine would be Carmine Galante, but what's yours? That's never been done.
I would say Scarfo. It's amazing that Philadelphia Scarfo movie's never been made. I mean, it has everything you'd want. I mean, like the kind of movies I'd want to see made would, I don't think people would be that interested in, but like Philly, like it's amazing. Like they could do a mini series on Scarfo and it'd be amazing,
Yeah. The Philly story. Griff.
It's a hard one. I think the Castellamarsi War would be cool, would be a good thing to see. I know they kind of did a little bit in Boardwalk Empire, but that shows, pretty out there in terms of accuracy. But yeah, I like period pieces. So I think something like that would be really cool to see.
I would like the something about the Cherry Hill Gambinos, like 70s, 80s era, and the Pizza Connection stuff, the Vatican Bank scandal, that ties in a lot of different things. The Gotti, Scarfo, all those guys intersect at some point with the Cherry Hill Gambinos, Totorina, all these major figures, historical figures from the 70s and 80s. A lot of them intersect at some point with the Cherry Hill Gambinos. And I think something, a TV series or movie, 70s, 80s on those guys would be really interesting.
The Raimondi movie would be good.
Of course.
The Raimondi movie.
There's a Lindblom documentary coming out soon, but
that's not true. Is there really?
Yeah, there really. I swear to God. Right? I swear to God, they're like, wow. You can look it up.
You should do a live stream viewing of it,
That's good. Yeah. That would be good.
Somebody left that fucking comment on our last show we did, based on the question I just asked about what would make a good movie that's never been done. And this guy was adamant about a Gunnar Lindblom movie.
Oh no, the book. They said no. Somebody left a comment that said, "Listen, I know Gunner's full of shit, but his books are amazing. They need to make a movie on his books." I never read his book, so I can't comment on it. I just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, I'll just no comment. I threw that grenade out there, and now I'm just
I feel like we should be careful. We shouldn't talk about the boss this way, you know.
yeah,
Well, yeah.
true.
That Jeff Loman might get jealous.
One of my favorite troll accounts ever, where people in this mob too. There's a bunch of troll accounts. One of my favorite accounts was Gunner Anal Lindblom. That was one of my favorite.
Bummer.
He used to make his rounds in the chats. I don't know who it was, but
The English guy with the English voice.
Gunner Anal Lindblom. Shout out to you.
Yeah, for sure. I know you guys had questions for me, so go ahead, shoot away.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always interested in hearing about the Grimaldis.
Yeah.
Did Vito ever talk about his father? Because he was a Bonanno captain way back when.
Yeah.
And from Santa Ninfa, there was a big early Bonanno element from Santa Ninfa going back to the early years. So I'm just curious, like what sort of family history he had in it.
When he would talk about his dad, his dad was named Joe as well. He lost his wife at a young age, Vito's mom, and he talk about his dad in the respect, like he had so much respect and love for his father, and so did his son Joseph, who he was named after. It was always it wasn't at all in the mob capacity at all. We talked about other people in regards to mob capacity, stories, old stories. I told you at one time it would just go out the ear and out the other because mostly they would be like repeated out of love. We just either we went out the night before or we were hanging out in the office, me and another friend of mine and his son at time. His son sometimes didn't even come into the room. He was in his own office, you know what I mean? But it was respectful. And not only from him, of course, it's his son. He's going to talk respectful of the old man. But no, you never found somebody to say really, really a negative thing about the old man. It was always positive, a good person, very respectful. I liked one of the stories he told me that I actually remember that, these days our men, they'll just you'll come in the house and they won't have a shirt on. If you don't know if there's girls on or something, because it's hot on. He says his dad would never, ever would be out without his shirt. He had those old principles and stuff like that. And I remember that, my dad, he was out in the fucking to put tomatoes out and everything like that. 100 degree weather. He didn't give a fuck what if he had a shirt on or not. But he was a very respectful, no nonsense type of guy. And he would say that because Joe had that. Joe, Vito's son would have that kind of way about him, like no bullshit. He didn't have time for the bullshit. Of course we used to kid around and laugh and joke around, but at the end of the day, that's so he said Joe, his son, had a lot of his dad, so that's what his dad was. He was a real respectable man, and so was he. Vito was too. I learned a lot from him. I learned how to control a lot of things. My anger was one of them. I was way out of fucking control. And then he my life could have been a lot worse, or my conscience if it wasn't for Vito Grimaldi. I have flaws, but they could have been a lot worse. Anybody else questions? I'm here for you.
Well, yeah, just again about Vito Grimaldi. What did you ever talk about like his early associations with like different figures in the neighborhood, like Frank Labruzzo or Joe DiMaria or anybody?
Talk about certain incidents that happened. Was somebody pissed somebody off at one time. He talks about this guy whose kids worked at the bakery at one time, and their dad had gotten into it with Tony Aiello, and the kid's father, his name was Fado. He fucked them up, He gave him one punch and knocked them out. Stuff like he would talk about things like that now and then. we didn't talk about bodies. We didn't talk, and that's another thing too. If it was somebody else, we would have talked about doing this, that, everything. We never did. Never. So he was more of a student of the Cosa Nostra. You don't kill. That's the last resort. That that's fucking for animals. That's when you got the kind of stuff that I grew up remember listening to older people than him. About just control your anger or there's certain things you don't do. Never use hands. He was big on that. Big. Never use hands on anybody. It gets thought out. If you have to go to the point where you use hands, then you might as well just get rid of somebody. So you really don't want to do that either. But is it worth it? Not worth it. Is it that serious?
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure if he had to do work, he'd do it.
Yeah.
I never did anything with him, and never talked about doing anything with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how he was. He was a real student of that life, and then he taught it, and he taught it well.
Yeah.
Who was his mentor in that life?
He would talk about this guy Di Maria all the time. I didn't even know who he was. He'd talk about him, Di Maria, and Di Maria would talk about girls to him and women, but he without not too much, stuff that these guys were doing back then. They couldn't show their hands or their perverted side, and so they would just joke around. I remember one time me and my buddies we went to a strip club, and the next day, so you got to remember I worked at the bakery too. We went to a strip club, and I go there first, and I'm gonna go hook up with this Indian stripper. She was French Guyana. I'm sorry, but she looked Indian. She was getting out of work. Another friend comes. I go, "What the fuck you doing here?" He goes, "What are you doing here?" I'm not gonna mention names. And I go, "Well, I'm waiting for her." He goes, "So am I." I said, "All right, fuck it. I mean, let's go." Then another kid comes in, a big fat kid, right? And I go, "What the fuck are you doing here?" He goes, "Because I took him already, so he got to know her. They know it wasn't my girl. It was just a girl we used to go, whatever, have fun. And she was in on it all the time. We would have fun. So we end up the next day. We all go to a hotel. She's having fun. Who wants to hang out with her? Who does it? So we're all hanging out there. So we go there. He goes, "What did you do yesterday?" Because he seen that we were a little fucking tired and worn out. And it's only me and him. I said, "Well, we hung out with this girl." I go, "Both of you?" He goes, "Three of us." Because there was three of you. And he would go like this with his glasses. Three of you. Yeah, I mean, this is new generation. And what happened? Well, I had my way, he had his way. And you guys were naked in the same room together. And he goes, what was the other guy doing? The other guy. His name was Sausage. That's all I'm going to say. I said, he was on the other bed. It was a double bed. Just waiting to get his turn. He goes, and he was just sitting there watching who's naked. He goes, "I heard everything." He goes, "I heard everything." He was laughing, but he didn't want to. You know what I mean? So he was that guy. So I gave him some entertainment when it came to that. But he was old school. He was fucking. You guys were naked with each other. Oh yeah, what was the other one? How about if you slipped? He goes, "How about what if you slipped, and then you touch the other guy?" It was just. I tear every time I hear about it. I used to make him laugh a lot, and it ain't good, but he was a good guy. He was a really good guy.
Yeah, this is a guy who he was proud of the fact that his dad wouldn't take his shirt off in front of other people, and then he's hearing this.
No, he was a different generation. That's what he was trying to say. Oh yeah. He was just for that stupid shit. One time I was on I hope women ain't listening. So we were on his boat. His boat the name of his boat was called a French Bread. So we got like 8 of us on the boat. We're talking about. and we're talking about the new going down on a girl is the eating ass. All these fucking guys eat ass. I go, you fucking disgusted. I'm talking loud. I go, who the fuck eats ass? The ass is a human sewer. I said, you fucking bastards. And he's listening. He goes, who eats ass? I said, give everybody fucking plastic cups in here. We're gonna be fucking infected. You know, who was telling me one of the guys was like, yeah, well, you know what? He goes, I make sure it's clean. I go, what do you bring it to a car wash? What the fuck is going on? Yeah, we were, and he was like laughing, but at the same time on the side, you know what I mean? Fucking degenerates. They talk about the Sopranos about Uncle Junior going out to the border. Here, these fucking guys are going all the way. I go, men have asses. What the fuck? Yeah, so that was. We had a lot of fun. He was a good man.
One thing to follow up on, because you mentioned that he would bring up this guy Di Maria. Would have to be Joe Di Maria, who was also from Santa Nifa. He was a fixture in that area. He's actually related through marriage through a couple. He's related through marriage to relatives of Niccolo Schiro, who was boss before Bonanno.
I'm pretty sure that Vito's wife is a Di Maria.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
All right. And yeah, they come from back home. They come from a long history of Cosa Nostra. But yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive, to be honest with you. It's been a while. To some people's dismay, I do have a pretty good memory. But I can't remember everything. You know what I mean? And some things I just want to forget.
Yeah, there were. That's why I'm curious too, because with his Santa Nifa connections, there were a bunch of guys from there, from Salimi, which is next door. Paul Shaka, the boss in the '60s, Paul Shaka was from both. I think he had heritage in both Salimi and Santa Nifa. So, and then it goes way back. There was a guy in the '20s, Benny Gallo from Santa Nifa. He was probably a captain. There was a Boston boss, Gaspare Messina from Salimi. He was with the Bonanno family originally, moved to Boston in like the 1910s.
Yeah,
so a lot of connections with, we think of Castellamare, Alcamo, that northwest Trapani area, but the inland down there of Trapani had a bunch of Bonanno guys too.
Oh, yeah. Castelvetrano too. Who's from Castelvetrano? Giancana, I believe.
Yep.
Is from Castelvetrano. That's all. They neighbor each other. Santa Niva, we had a good amount of Santa Niva. That's how we say. But they if they were back home, the ones there was very few in New York that I remember that were in that life. But you got to remember, 1968, that town almost got wiped out by the earthquake.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them moved. I know a family that the guy married twice. The first wife had died, and his kids. It was one of the areas one of the towns that got hit the worst was Santa Niva. But at the same time, there's a lot of them in Venezuela too. In Venezuela, and those are probably the ones that you guys are looking for.
Yeah, there was actually a family there. The Sicilian Mafia had a Decina in Venezuela. They had two of them. One was Siciliana, another one was the Santa Ninfa family. And Tommaso Buscetta said later that got recognized as its own family, but it was made up of guys from Santa Ninfa in Venezuela.
Why Venezuela? What was behind that?
Well,
still immigrant colony. Yeah.
Yeah. They were a lot of times back then. Not only that, even the legitimate ones left and they went to Venezuela was because the economy. The economy was booming in Venezuela around those times. It was one of the richest countries in South America. It's not anything what it was today, but
Argentina too. Argentina, a lot of Italians migrated to
Argentina. Yeah, but you got a lot of those fascists and the freaking
German. A lot of Germans were down there.
A lot of blondes running around there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you had a lot of Jewish folks over there too, which is weird. I mean, like wherever there's Germans, there's Jewish people. I don't get it. When you want to get a fuck away from them,
Yeah.
you know, I don't get that. I don't get that. Sal's father was in Argentina for 7 years. A lot Italians. A lot of Italians. That's like their first stop when they come to New York or America. They speak Spanish better than they do English. You know, I get the connection, the Romance language, whatnot, but they're already equipped. You know, they're ready to put their game down on the Puerto Rican chicks. You know, on Knickerbocker Avenue.
Something that I would ask you, I'd like to ask Frank is back to Galante, because you said you never met him. So, I mean, you're a young person, but there's a lot of really important people in and out of your house that are friends with your family, but not Galante. He was not, your father was not friends with him, your uncle.
No. I didn't say that. I said I don't remember him.
Okay.
I don't remember him.
I
No.
understand.
Yeah, family. Yeah, of course. He was very good with the Castellamare Sicilians, all of them. I mean, when he seen them, you know, he felt. Even his daughter said it. Her dad thought he was Sicilian too. You know that.
Yes.
He was more Sicilian than he was American. And,
Right.
and it's funny. So was my Aunt Maria, who was aunt by marriage. That's Tony Giordano's mother. Redhead, born in America, spoke English to a T. But when she used to get an American guy over there, she acted like, you know, like, who's this guy? What's he want? What's he want with my son? Or, you know, when we were there, it was just like, hey, everything was beautiful. You know what I mean?
And Galante, I think he grew up in the East Village over in Manhattan, I'm pretty sure.
He grew up in Manhattan. Yeah, he did. But I don't know who got him to close to his roots, but I believe that Bonanno had a lot to do with that made him familiar with who he was, where he was from. I'm pretty sure there was a lot of Castellamares first and second generation here already that didn't have mob ties, you know, but then they would get Faganed, you know, just like the Dickens books, you know. They grab him and they make him part of a little gang. So I think he got. I don't know how his family was back in Italy before. You know, there's other Galantes too. But I don't know how mobbed up they were.
Yeah, there's on one of the DeCavalcante tapes, they're talking about Carmine, and they say, you know, he's the way they're talking about how vicious he is, and they're like, he's that way because the old man made him. They're talking about Joe Bonanno. Joe Bonanno made him that way. Basically, Joe Bonanno molded him in his image. You know, so I think he was really taken under the wing of Joe Bonanno and John Bonventre, because John Bonventre, Joe Bonanno's uncle, he was active in the East Village, and we know he and Galante were close. They were up in Appalachian together. So I think he got really taken under the wing of Bonanno and the Bonventres.
Yeah. I think he was an isolated case in his immediate family as well. He has a brother, and a brother has a kid named Carmine Galante who had gotten in trouble in Brooklyn a while back, and they were very Americanized. I know because I had a cousin of mine who had gotten into a little bit of a beef with him. The kid ended up doing 25 years on a murder anyway. But he was like, well, I'm Carmine Galante's nephew. Nobody gave a fuck. You know, that's how the Bob is.
Frank, on Monday, I was showing you that creepy Mussolini propaganda wall with his face, where it says C all over that fucking weird Big Brother thing. And we brought up the Tresca incident, right? Is it accepted that Galante was? What's the deal with that? Obviously it's.
Yeah, Frank Garofalo, who was Joe Bonanno's underboss, he's one of the guys who was alleged to have been part of that conspiracy. So it would make sense. Griffin might know more about the specifics, but Frank Garofalo is said to have kind of helped orchestrate it. So I imagine Galante might have been how he made his bones as far as, you know, getting in with those guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have much to add on that. I haven't looked too deep into it.
Well, it's interesting case study because Tresca is an anti-fascist, right? So this hit is coming from Mussolini wants this guy dead. He's a prominent anti-fascist in the Italian American community or Italian immigrant community, and it's just an interesting case study because Joe Bonanno, when you read his autobiography, back to like him having an agenda, he's the most anti-fascist guy in the world, according to Joe Bonanno, and yet here he is happy to have his guys carry out an assassination on behalf of Benito Mussolini. That doesn't seem very anti-fascist to me. So
now, let me tell you something. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Frank. Go ahead.
Real quick, let me tell you something about the Castellamarese people in general. They're fucking diplomats, politicians. You think we fucking of a part of Israel in certain sense. We know how to talk. We know how to. We not everything. Oh yeah, I'm not. Oh, there you go, Mike. I'm not saying we're the smartest people in the world, folks, but it's just like everybody's a fucking shyster in my town. They're born shysters. You know what I mean? They know how to talk. They know how to do everything. They know. I mean, and I think that comes because we're a coastal town, so we get to see people from all over the years. So we learn a little bit from everyone. You know what I mean? But we do have that. We look. One of the biggest shysters in fucking Italy is the president. So go figure that out. And he's from the Gulf. So yeah, we have that gift. My uncle Cheech was the best.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. I mean, when it came to that shit, and I ain't kidding you not, he had a Star of David in the chain.
Hey, you were telling me.
That's
Star of David. I'm not making shit up. I go, he loved the Jewish people. He loved the way they rolled, they operated. He was like, those people, they know how to do it, you know.
Well, these reports I've looked at in terms of post World War II, the political situation in Castellammare and how it intersects with politics and the mafia, the clans there, they covered their bases. They supported everybody: the Christian Democrats, the communists, they made sure that whoever was elected, they were so it was like non-ideological, right? It was like the Frank's point of like, whoever's in there, they're going to work with us the way we want it. It doesn't matter if they're left, right, center, and so it's pretty interesting.
Controlled opposition, basically. Right?
Yeah, there was an informant, a made member in San Jose, who said, the mafia it can exist everywhere except communist countries, and we see too where the politics are circumstantial. Like there was an informant too who said the mafia actually supported Mussolini when he was just cracking down on petty criminals, street crime, and then of course when he started going after the mafia, suddenly they're like, we're not into this guy. So a lot of this is circumstantial.
Yeah.
It took them what, 6 years to get rid of the mob in Sicily, from 24, I believe, to 29 or 30, and they were gone. And that's how we get the 5 families in 1931. Look how many Sicilians are coming over.
Yep.
That wasn't the first time it happened. I mean, well, it was kind of the first time, but then we have Miami, Florida, the Cubans in Miami. Then we have what's going on right now with the Venezuelans. That shit been going on forever in this country.
A lot of the Castellamarese went to Tunisia too after Mussolini. But before the United States, they went to North Africa first.
Yeah, there was a family there. There was a Sicilian mafia family. A bunch of guys from Trapani, Campo Reale were there. Yeah.
Tunisia.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of fascist Sicilians. They ended up moving to Argentina and places like that because they were already going to start getting hit with shovels, if everything, when the Americans got there in 43,
Well, I also read in these reports about Castellammare that after World War II, some of the mafia members who were openly pro-fascist and collaborated with Mussolini, they were all killed. as you can understand, so you picked the wrong side because Mussolini's gone now, and so that's how that was handled.
Yeah, my mother used to tell me a story of a certain Tatamella. The father, he was out. He used to go thieving, and the black shirts caught him one night. His son used to cut hair about Knickerbocker Avenue. They caught him at night trying to rob, and he got a heart attack from just them fucking getting on him and died right there on the
Yeesh.
spot.
Wow.
Because he didn't know what was next. You know what I mean? But back then things were like that. People couldn't eat; they needed to go support their families. So that kind of those stories. After they were done with fascism, they went after those guys who were so putting that discipline on these people. You know what I mean?
Frank, if I can also ask you just like about, I'm
Sure.
interested in like the trauma here. You're a young person, and these people that your family are friends with, or they're coming to your home. Carmine Galante gets killed in 1979. Nino Buccellato gets killed in 81. Cesar Bonventre gets killed in 84. I mean, as a young person, are you finding out about that? I mean, what's going through your head as a 10, 12, 13-year-old finding out that these family, friends, and acquaintances are...
I had a good fit. My problem with my family was traumatized with what was going on with the death of my brother.
Oh yeah, we didn't even. That's the most important one, right? I didn't. Right.
Then I was just a kid, so I would fucking just get on my bike and ride around the neighborhood. End up at Salicati's house for about a month. Apparently looking for me, because they were like my family. Stuff like that. But me being traumatized, no. And by the time I was getting it or understanding it, and my parents, whatever I wanted, they got for me. If I wanted to play baseball, they paid for my baseball. If I wanted video games, I got that. But there wasn't that face-to-face communication because they were going through their own shit, So that was that. They were going through more than I was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They were, and which is another question too. I mean, have you guys ever dug up more like a year? He's laughing over there. He goes, more like a year. So that was going on. That was going on. But I mean, in respect to my brother, I always try to find out. You guys look for his history and stuff like that. I always try to find out what happened through more or less. But you guys, dig in to stuff like to things like that. So I found out later on that a guy Figueroa was the culprit. That my brother was going to get in trouble anyway in life. The one who passed away. He wasn't his first arson either. And we always try to find out what happened. And he went to my uncle Cheech. We found that out later on. I did anyway. Through wiretaps the Pennsylvania had. We found out that they were looking for somebody to go burn a place that was in competition to Figueroa's place. And that's where my brother lost his life. But it's part of that life, you know what I mean? And my parents never got good after that. They always suffered. But I mean, that was it. I had to find out more or less from a Jonathan Whitney book.
Right. Yeah. And Figueroa, we talked about that on your show the other day, but he's a big Pizza Connection guy. If people are unfamiliar with that.
Yeah, I played soccer with his nephew, and you don't know these things. Not that the kid had nothing to do. He ended up becoming a cop. He became a cop anyway.
Really? Wow, that's
nephew.
Ironic.
Not really. I mean, he was in a bigger player that people make it sound to be. He was just somebody who got a lot of years for carrying that kind of weight, but he was a minor player.
Yeah, I don't even think he was a made guy, right? I don't.
No.
No.
But he got hit hard. He took his time.
Yeah.
Hey guys, you want to get to? I started a bunch of questions during this conversation. If you guys want to get to a little Q&A, we can read some questions from the chat, and we'll see what we got here. Let's see if you guys got any more. Let's get them in. Let me go to the top. Let's see. Gaslight. Who else but Gaslight? Not sure if you guys. So let me bring it up. Not sure if you guys know of him, but what do you think of Leoluca Orlando, a former mayor of Palermo? Anybody?
My understanding is he's like a sincere anti-mafia reformer. That's my understanding, is that he's pretty sincere about fighting corruption and things like that. but I don't. I have limited knowledge. I mean, maybe like if Tom LaVecchia is out there, he might know a little bit more. But that's my understanding.
I have a buddy of mine, old guy, Boston attorney that I'm friends with today, and he's half Italian. He's buddies with this guy. He's always telling me about him. I had no idea who the fuck the guy was. Because I go to visit Leo Luca, my friend. We go eat, and I'm like, who is he? Oh, he's anti-mob. I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But I got to bring him on one day. My friend Henry, he's a retired lawyer outside. The Kriegers trained him.
All right.
Yeah. Old guy, a friend of mine, still is. I have drinks with him. He's not drinking right now no more, but good dude.
Well, all right. We got to ask Tom to unpack that if he's.
I would wonder, is he from Corleone? Because the name Leo Luca is
Palermo.
Okay.
He's from Palermo.
All right. We got David Price. Under Cosa Nostra rules, traditions, did the commission have the authority to strip an autonomous boss of his position, or did this power exclusively rest with the consiglieri and the capodicinos?
It was both. The commission could usually it would be a combination. Like the family could vote to depose a boss, because the family, they vote for the boss, and they could also vote to take him down. There are a couple examples of that. But the commission, if a boss was seen as committing, certain infractions, the commission could also do that. That's what they did to Joe Bonanno. So both. They can often they both kind of intersect, but either one, the commission would have to give the final approval though. Like the consiglieri and the captains, if they took that to the commission, the commission would have to approve it.
Yeah, I can't think of any examples outside of Bonanno, and then Joe Magliocco as well, kind of for the same reason, but he was also stripped of his position by the commission.
Yeah.
And because the commission is the one that ultimately recognizes the boss, so that's kind of rests on that, where if they refuse to recognize a boss, and if they refuse to recognize a boss, then they kind of lose power. And then, as Eric said way in the beginning, the commission, they can do things to kind of make the family kind of follow their line. So,
yep.
Salacardi, the guy that Frank took over his bedroom for about a year back then. Salacardi, Bonanno and Profaci wanted to take Gambino, Tommy Lucchese out. Joe Colombo, Profaci's captain, who was given the hit, gave them up to Gambino and Lucchese. I guess it was more of a comment than a question.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
More or less seems what happens. And then Colombo gets obviously the boss position.
Yeah, Joe Bonanno felt that Gambino and Lucchese were trying to undermine him. They thought that Tommy Lucchese and Gambino were encouraging the Gallows to revolt. Bonanno, in his book, he blames them for like everything. His cousin, of course, Magadino, but he thinks that Gambino and Lucchese were just trying to undermine him. And I think Bonanno, he was as treacherous as it gets. I 100% think he was plotting against them too. Because the story is that when Magliocco gave the murder contract to Joe Colombo, that he had Bill Bonanno with him. Because Bill Bonanno was living with Magliocco because he was married to his niece. Mm-hmm. And so Colombo saw Magliocco with Bonanno when he gets this contract, which, I think we can assume Joe Bonanno was in on that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And excuse me, Joe Bonanno has complete contempt for Carlo Gambino in his book. He gives that story about how he says Albert Anastasia would belittle him. And I don't know if that's true or not. Everyone else seems to revere Carlo Gambino. Joe Bonanno is the only dissenting voice that he does not think highly of him at all. I guess Carlo got the last laugh in the end, but he does not think highly of Carlo Gambino at all.
Yeah, he calls him a squirrel of a man. Says Carlo Gambino was a squirrel of a man.
yeah, he does not think highly of him. And Tommy Lucchese too, because it's interesting. We talk about Vito Genovese, Carlo Gambino as these big bosses. But when you read Bonanno's autobiography, in a lot of ways, he thinks Tommy Lucchese is the guy who's the sort of pulling the strings behind the scenes. That Tommy Lucchese, if you look at the commission, Joe Bonanno argues it was Joe Bonanno, Joe Profaci, Frank Costello, and Albert Anastasia, and they have sort of a strong four-person packed, and Tommy Lucchese is the guy on the outs, and so it's Tommy Lucchese who's manipulating things to get Vito Genovese in there, to get Carlo Gambino in there, to get Joe Colombo in there, eventually Gaspar Di Gregorio, so that the commission flips to where Tommy Lucchese, instead of being an outsider, he is now, sort of like one of the most important members. I don't know how true all of those machinations, some of that might be Joe Bonanno's imagination. I don't know, but it's certainly the way it ended up playing out, right? Like those guys. I mean, the commission flips in terms of politically.
Yeah, we have other sources too. Like on the commission, they were constantly making these alliances so they would all vote the same
direction.
And, yeah, Bonanno calls it the liberals versus the conservatives. He says he was part of the conservative faction. These other guys were the liberal faction. Conservative meant Sicilian, basically traditional mafia. But yeah, no, I think that's all true. That these guys were constantly scheming with each other, trying to get guys to vote the way they wanted. Bonanno is obviously biased, but there's some truth to it.
They did like the Gotti vote.
Yeah.
Who votes John Gotti? Oh, yeah, sure. The Castellano hit.
Yeah.
Tom LaVecchia, was Frank Rappa made here? The Claw.
I don't think so. I think he's Sicilian Mafia. Because it came out, isn't he the one whose son just got arrested? They're from Borgetto.
Tom, is that the guy you said was from my area? Something like that?
Your area.
Or was hiding here or something? Interesting stuff. Corruption Connection. Does anyone have updates on Salvatore Catalano and his recent arrest?
That was interesting. No, I don't know. Yeah. I haven't heard anything.
That was very interesting. I don't know.
Extorting people or something? Or
89 years old. Maybe the dude's onto something.
But one of the articles said it said he was a capo mandamento now, which means he must have transferred to Sicily. Yeah. I mean, obviously he had relatives in Cimina and stuff in the mafia.
Oh, yeah, they still do.
Yeah.
I have a cousin of mine who's married to his niece. And
Yo Bo in Sammy voice. Why didn't Carmen Galante clip Rusty and Neil? I know he blew up Frank Costello's mausoleum.
The kid from Woodhaven, he's the other kid that was here. Yeah, I wonder if it's the same guy.
He had a different name the other day, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
I mean, I don't know. What would you, Griff, Frank, any guys, like, I would think Carmine just probably didn't take them seriously enough, right? Wouldn't you think it was sort of hubris? Like Carmine just did not see them as a threat to his power, Rusty and some of those guys?
Yeah, keep in mind, like, Rusty Rastelli was originally... Oh, wow. Like when Carmine was a captain, Rusty was a soldier in his crew.
Yeah, right.
And
but not only that, when he was out in the 70s, he was in jail. They weren't out together.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, is I think I don't know the exact timeline, but yeah, Rusty was in jail for a good part of the 70s. So when Galante's out, he basically becomes de facto boss. In all but name only.
Messino,
or everything but name.
Yeah, Messino says when Galante asks him who's your boss at his making ceremony, who's your guy, he tells him that Rastelli is, knowing that wasn't the way to go. Yeah. I don't believe that shit. If I know Joe Messino is a fucking people pleaser until he could get his way. I don't believe he said that at all. Not the Lilo.
Yeah, Galante also put a lot of his own guys in power. I think he thought that he had everything kind of squared away. It's hard to say. I mean, and if he killed Neil Della Croce, he's going to get killed in a second. That's starting with another family.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a different, right. That's a good point. Yeah, that's a whole different category, right. Yeah. He wouldn't do that, I don't think.
No, my thing about back to the Messino thing was a Messino who just got made is not going to tell fucking Carmine Galante that Rastelli's his guy. It ain't going to happen. It's going to be like, oh, you know what, Lilo, whatever you tell me, my guy is. That's who it is. That's typical Joe Messino.
Yeah.
Politician.
Oh, yeah.
David Price. Is Salemi, I'm not sure if it's this insane Mondamento with Alcamo and Castellamare del Golfo.
No, it's a different one. I don't know which one it belongs to, but it's a different. I can't remember which one would be. Probably the same one as Santa Ninfa, and maybe
The Trapani one, right? That's a whole one different, right?
yeah, there's a few of them. I mean, like the
Ornament
Mondamento is
Trapani.
like, just so people understand, a Mondamento is like usually like 3 or 4 neighboring villages. They're always like the ones that are closest to each other. So I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know.
How about Giacomo Amato? You guys ever heard of him? It's another Fugazi.
Okay.
He got a mask, but if you watch his book, it's like if you read, I wouldn't read his book. I'd wipe my ass with it, but it's just like the Runzavelli Jr. Same area, same kind of story, a little bit more. If I wanted to, just an idiot.
Yeah, except that there's zero proof with this guy. This atlas is zero.
Oh, he's the worst. Yeah, I would.
So, Sit Ubu Sit. Were there any Maranzano family members involved in the rackets after his demise?
Not that I know of, because that's the weird thing is like, we talk about these same Castellamarese names that come up again and again, and we don't really see Maranzanos involved.
No.
On either side. On either side of
Yeah,
the
yeah.
right.
No, you know what I took for granted all the time people used to tell me things like stories and everything. Like all history wise, not secrets. They're probably like, thank God we didn't tell you. But anyway, I'm talking about history stuff. And it would go out one ear and out the other. My mother, I remember my mother told me that her dad, my granddad, worked the farm with Maranzano's brother, and he talked about he had a brother in New York that was doing really, really, really good. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
But that was it.
He was related to the Minores of the Trapani family. There was he married was it the sister? I can't remember what. Maybe Jimmy remembers, but he was.
I think it was the daughter, wasn't it, Elizabeth?
Okay.
That wasn't her. I think her father was like the boss. And
but that was over in Sicily. So, and it was a marital relation, but I don't know of any Maranzano relatives. I don't want to get too much into the current Sicilian stuff, but it did come out that Ciccio Domingo's aunt was married to Maranzano's son. So I don't know if he was involved in anything, but that came out of one of those investigations.
That's a very popular name.
Yeah. Don't want to say too much. I don't want to say too much about that, but just that's one of the things that came out.
Yeah, but I hear you. I hear you. Yeah.
All right. We got Tom again. Eric, wasn't there a Chicago mobster from Ribera supposedly received a pardon assisted by the Vatican?
I don't know. There were a bunch of guys from Ribera in Chicago who were connected to the DeCavalcantes. That's like the town that produced the entire early DeCavalcantes. I don't know. If you heard of that, Tom, let me know. Because I don't know about a pardon by the Vatican. But there were a bunch of guys from Ribera there.
I know like 4 people from Ribera in my neighborhood.
Do you?
4. Not many guys, like 4 people.
Yeah.
Literally. Yeah. Sal's talking about Sitamo Accardi, the black market king of ration cards in WW2.
Yeah.
That's a relative right there.
Rock solid, my man.
Wait a minute. Sal is related to your friend is related to Settimo Accardi?
Yeah. That's Accardi, yeah.
Accardi's a name that that overlaps with the Castellamare stuff we talk about.
They were close. He was very close with his dad. God rest his soul. His dad John was very close with the Bonanno faction of the De Gregorios.
Yeah, or just real quick, because Big Sam was related to Vincenzo Morcellino, who was a Bonanno member and part of the kind of his narcotic trafficking ring. So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
There was another Bonanno guy, the Bonanno guy who got killed in the late 60s. I'm blanking on his name, but he was another cousin of, supposedly a cousin of Accardi.
Oh, Adamo?
Yeah.
Well, the other one, Crociata. Crociata.
It was Adamo. It was, what's his first?
Adamo.
Mike Adamo. Yeah, he was they were all from Vita.
Yeah.
They're one of those towns down in, by.
I've been there.
Yeah.
between chickens and people, there's about 500 people.
Chicago Tony says, never heard of a Chicago receiving partner from the. Well, it might happen soon. The new
Shout out
pope
to
is from
Tony.
Chicago.
Tony's another mob archaeologist.
Yes, he is. Oh, hey, what's up, Tony?
Shout out to Tony.
CC88 says, fantastic panel. Hopefully do it again with Tom. What's going on, Tom?
Basta.
Basta.
Today we're gonna unpack.
Oh, I guess it's that time, huh?
Do you have the Basta video still?
I don't. I know someone that has it. I gotta get it. I gotta get it from the person that has it.
I might use that against him next time I go.
That was not a good moment, so I don't know. I don't know if Tom that was bad, but whatever. Made for some great footage, Tom.
Cardi was related to.
Has it, Tom? That's who has it.
Yeah, that is a good drop. But Cardi was his sister was married to Onofrio Abate, who is from Trapani, who is related or intersects with the Minore clan again that we've already mentioned. And so, like when Toto Minore was another guy who was sort of on the lam. He was the boss of Trapani. His niece was married to Felice Buccellato, a different one. And
God damn, my dad used to mention him all the time. Felice Buccellato, there was Cola Buccellato, there was all of that.
Yeah, so Cola's son, Felice, was married to Minore's niece. And anyhow, when Minore was in he lived in the United States for a while. And I know at one point he was arrested with Joe Buccellato. They were arrested. They had guns on them. They weren't registered. But so I think it was in Jersey they were arrested. But so anyhow, Accardi that's a real interesting name. I don't mean to digress too much, but Abate, Accardi, these are important names for guys like us who are really interested in these transatlantic connections between the United States and
they were in Tunisia too. The Accardis were in Tunisia before the U.S. and had relatives there, so they were probably part of the Tunis family.
Yeah,
it's my case.
Not the tuna family.
No.
Not the tuna family. That's a different family.
Sal Cardi says, James, my grandfather and Nick Buccellato were great friends.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. There was a couple called Buccellato. They were good people.
Yeah. There's a
Yeah.
Gaslight Studios. I'm sorry, you saying something, James?
No, I was just going to say, like the Cola Buccellato, the one in Castellamare, who was head of at one point Mondamento, who was Felice's son, the Joe Bonanno's godfather, Felice. His son Cola Buccellato was a really important guy in Castellamare. And my family, like my great uncles and stuff, when they're all deceased now, but when I would interview them, they really revered him. They would say he was better than a father, and like he looked out for the Buccellatos, would help them get jobs and things like that. So it was a real kind of old school Don. Even if you look up Bernardo Provenzano and Totorina would refer to him as Zucola. Yeah, they had a lot of respect.
South texted me, goes, "Wow, you guys are killing this, but not you. It's a cola. You're killing the Italian. I like it though. That's good stuff. These guys are great."
Yeah.
You said that was Dom Felice's son?
Cola Buccellato was, yeah.
I didn't know. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's amazing how much you guys bring to this mob genre. I mean, like the knowledge is fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
These guys are talking about people that my grandparents used to talk about.
That's cool.
my dad, my family. I'm like, holy shit, Vito Camali, people I knew. And yeah. And people talk about, nobody knows this like I know this. You have all these fucking people. Their content is the best. Your content is truly the best. The best.
Great, brother. Really appreciate that.
I want you guys to know that you bring a lot. You bring a lot to people who want to know about this stuff.
Well, that's the cool thing is like, the stuff we talk about. You know these people and these names, and even if you didn't know them, you know of them. And then when we talk about these places in Sicily, you know exactly where they are. You knew people from there. Makes a huge difference.
Yeah, but you connect a lot of dots for me too. When I'm like, well, fuck yeah. Oh, that's why I was there. Oh, that's why he was. Because like I told you, when I was a kid, I didn't want to go up in the fucking mountains and visit my cousins. I wanted to go on the beach. Fuck, you know, like what the fuck do I want to go up there for? And listen to stories all day. Yeah, you know. But I kind of regret it now, you know. And they're happy because they're like, oh fuck, I'm glad we didn't talk to him. But yeah, that's
Gaslight.
it.
What's the West Asian, Eastern Europe end of the pizza connection look like? Who are the principal suppliers of the morphine base?
Good one, eh? Because people always fucking like, you know, like I was there. But what do you guys think of that?
What's the West Asian, Eastern European? Who are the principal suppliers of morphine? I guess. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what you're looking for. Gaslight. Are you talking about West Asian? Are you talking about like the
Afghanistan.
Lebanese and like the Turks? I mean, a lot of people
Yeah.
were. Yeah, I mean, a lot of different Mujahideen. Yeah, I mean, by the 80s, definitely. Mujahideen were big.
Do you believe the story that John Gambino had to fly out to meet Toto Reina to spare the remaining Inzerillos that were here?
Yeah, I mean,
true.
it's in a lot of the official documentation. I mean, the official documents. Yeah, I believe it.
That is true. What happened was Rosario Naimo, who was a Sicilian Mafia member who later transferred to the Lucchese's, he flipped and he was a huge deal. He was a really big deal. He was like the representative of Reina and that faction in the U.S. with the Corleonesi. He said, yeah, John Gambino went out there and they told him he met with Rosario Riccobono, who was one of the bosses out there. And they said, if you can give us bruschetta, you know, we'll basically save you. And so they called Totuccio Inzerillo's dad, who was in New Jersey, and they were like, where's bruschetta? And he said he didn't know. So they were like, okay, you know, you didn't help us. So he tried. And I mean, he was able to protect some of them, the ones who went to the U.S., but couldn't protect the ones who stayed in Sicily.
Well, two of them they killed in the United States.
Right.
Antonino and I think was it his son or his nephew?
It was Totuccio's brother, his nephew. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pietro.
Because Antonino was the captain of that crew before John, and they killed him. And that's my understanding is Paul Castellano signed off on that because he was upset. Back to your point about that rule that you're not supposed to get involved in conflicts on either side of the, you know.
Yeah. What happened was Nino Inzerillo was a Gambino captain. When the war started, Castellano told him, "Don't get involved over there. You know, that's their business." Nino Inzerillo went there, got involved. So Castellano signed off on his murder, and he was killed by like Frank DeChico, Joe Watts, and like a bunch of the Zips. They all sorry.
Yeah, that's
Frank.
the one where I'm sorry. That's the one. Isn't that the one where Sammy said was there, and the guy goes to spit on him?
Yeah, they say it was John Gambino. I mean, I think Sammy says John Gambino is one of the guys that was there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And they were going to kill one of the guys on the scene because like one of the Sicilian guys, I think, kicked his body or spit on it or something, and they were going to kill him.
Hey, Sammy's
like, we killed the guy, but don't disrespect his body.
He didn't do nothing wrong. You know, he just was in two different families. That's Sammy. That's Sammy.
I don't know if I buy that. I mean, John Gambino, if it were him, he seems like a pretty chill guy, and that's one of his I mean, he was related to that dude in the, you know. So
I don't know if it was Gambino who did it. Supposedly, it was one of the other guys.
The other guys.
Yeah.
No,
Here's a local question. Brett question is Crispy Pizza as good as they say? I've never been to Crispy Pizza. I think it's on 13th Avenue, Eli's dad. Great job with their social media. I give them a lot of credit. They blew up. But I unfortunately haven't been there, Eli's dad, so I cannot say. Can't say.
Yeah, that pizza looks good, huh?
I can't say.
Salacati is talking about the movie The Traitor. I've seen it. It's one of my favorites. About the Corleone War. Have you guys ever seen it? The Traitor?
Yeah, I was a consultant on that movie.
Well, you really?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow. Very, very impressed. Very impressed. We got over here. We got consultants.
I put together like PowerPoint, like with like mapping to show how the people were related to each other, and because they were, you know, it's a confusing, if you're a filmmaker, you don't really know the kinds of things that we talk about. So they wanted to visualize like how people were connected and interrelated. And so I
Wow.
put together some like
That's
PowerPoint
awesome, man.
stuff for them.
That's pretty impressive.
Sony.
That's very impressive, actually. You guys published a couple of books, huh?
Not me.
What are you waiting for? You guys should. You guys are fucking excellent.
I appreciate it. I don't know if people want to read about the stuff I'm interested in, though. It's like this guy's mother was related to this guy, you know.
Yeah. Sal kind of goes, I gained a lot of respect for Buccellato after watching that. Yeah, they just fucking went against every rule of Cosa Nostra when they went after his family. But that family, and you guys can help me out on that if you guys know the history of Buccellato. He claims that he had nothing to do with it. They just wanted to make him come there and give himself up because he had that kind of power. No, he entertained a conversation in Brazil with somebody they were looking after, Badalamenti. They got the wind of that. And then when they got the wind of that, he was like in cahoots and not liking what was going on back in Sicily. That's when he put himself in that game. He wasn't in that game until then. People don't say that. Now, is it right what they did, kill his family? Absolutely not. But that's what went down. And with that, Pipo Gallo found out that he was, because in conference he goes, hey, what are they doing over there? And well, who you talk to? I talked to Badalamenti. The fuck you talking to him for? Oh, okay, come on, come back. You know, and that's what happened.
I'll grab a couple more guys. Is Tall Pete made on the other side with the Gambinos?
He's a Gambino member. Yeah.
I think he's a U.S. member.
Yep.
Tom, was Cosimo DeLauro an accidental death or an Epstein kind of death?
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Cosimo DeLauro did not kill himself. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think Big Pete was made when I was out there.
Yeah, probably not.
No, because I remember running into him. He was always like Callie's hey, what can I do? What can I get? What do you want to do? This or that, everything like that. And I met him once. I met Callie. I've seen a couple of times, but that time it was there was somebody else there. I came in. He goes, hey, why don't you sit down? Bobby Glasses was there. The other guy I'm not going to mention, but you guys can figure it out. And
anybody want to touch on this Operation Iron Tower?
Well, that's Cherry Hill Gambino stuff. Yeah.
Okay. And I sat down. We just talked. It was nothing. Mafia was nothing. Matter of fact, Frank Callie's my cousin's wife, and somehow Frank Callie are related, or the wives are related, or something. So that's what he was talking about. Hey, say hi to your cousin for me. I said, and my uncle was dead at the time. I said, yeah, sure.
All right, guys. Listen, we're over 2 hours in. I think this was a great panel tonight. I want to say thank you to Eric, Griffin, Dr. James Buccellato. I'll let you. I don't know. You guys got anything going on? I know you said you have a bit of a hiatus from YouTube for a while. Obviously, a lot of people liked what you guys did. Yeah. I've seen actually just periphery on the periphery. I've seen a lot of people commenting about you guys' stuff over the past year. Even on other channels, asking, hey, you guys know anything about the mob archaeologists guys or those guys? Where have they been? So what do you think? You guys are going to come back? I know Frank said something. Maybe you guys should write a book someday.
Yeah,
what do you think in the future with your research?
Yeah, we might well revisit. It's just hard. There's 4 people, different time zones. I work an insane schedule, so just finding the right moment. But I'm always down to keep it open. I do a blog, doesn't get updated very often. It has a podcast component. I just do kind of rambling monologues. So I do that sometimes. Yeah, just always I just enjoy the subject, you know. It's just a weird obsession, I guess. I'm from Seattle, you know. I didn't grow up around any of this.
East side. I see the shirt. The east side.
Yeah, Frank knows exactly where I'm from. So I have no personal experience with this, but I just find it fascinating. But really, it's been a pleasure, guys. I love
the Burke Gilman Trail. I get it. I take it to Redmond.
Oh yeah,
all the way to Seattle.
Yep.
I need to take more of that because I lost a lot of weight when I used to ride. It's a 40-mile trip. You know that.
Oh yeah. Is that the railroad track one? They used to be the
Mhm.
railroad tracks. Yeah, I
It
used
goes
to.
around the what river is that? Fucking
Sammamish.
the Sammamish. The
Yeah.
Sammamish.
Yep.
So it goes through Kirkland and Woodinville and all the way up around past Kurt Cobain's old house in Madison Park
Yep.
on the way down to Seattle. So
Yeah, drink a lot of beers there in high school. You know.
really,
Yeah.
you know what's great about that? When I was just got there, right, and I didn't know nobody, I was in terrific shape. I would take that. It was like 40, 50 miles all the way around the whole Lake Washington. And then I would hop on a bus in Seattle, put my bike there, and take it home because there was no way I was going to do the whole fucking thing, back and forth. And I enjoyed that in summertime, especially. It was fun. It was fun, but I would love to get into that again.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe
Griffin, I'll let you. I don't know. What do you see going with your research? You think you're going to come on YouTube? You think you're going to? What do you see in the future for yourself? Just stay interested.
For me,
Griffin, I'm sorry.
oh, Griffin. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I've actually kind of not really been researching it as much the past year or so, but honestly, getting the opportunity to come on this has kind of re-sparked it. So
nice.
I don't know. I think I met Eric and then James or Jimmy through the Black Hand Forum. So that's kind of the main outlet I think we all use. So probably get back on that and then maybe try to write some more longer form articles like what Eric writes. But yeah, it's just, like it's such an interesting and cool subject. And I think what we all love finding is like those connections and, where this guy's from and, oh, he worked at this place with this other guy. Like those connections are really fascinating. And then against this dramatic backdrop of the mafia. So yeah, it's just, there's almost like an endless amount of stuff to untangle. So.
For sure. Now, these guys are incredible. And maybe if we don't have use all at the same time at one time, two at a time, one at a time.
Thank you, Tony.
Yeah, you guys are welcome anytime. If you guys feel like, you want to get
Just
intricate with it, you want to do like a pre-record and you want to get real deep on something, something we could edit up. I could edit something up, photos, videos. You want to do something cool, hit up Frank, whatever you guys think,
Yeah,
I'm totally down.
Yeah.
I'm totally
Dr.
down.
James.
Yeah, I went to Wu-Tang last night. That's all.
He's like, I'm here every week, guys.
Yeah, don't
Same
call
time.
me next week. We're gonna have Scott Bernstein next week.
Oh yeah, right. I'll pay to see that.
Oh, speaking of Bernstein, what is he gonna do? He's gonna be with Novi Toko, and they're gonna like something Hoffa.
Well, it's some kind of forum and with a federal prosecutor, and they're gonna have a talk about Hoffa, like what happened. But it's an opportunity for the audience to have like FaceTime with Nova, who was an actual, he was a member of the Detroit. He became he flipped as well. But I'm not exactly familiar with what exactly they're going to talk about. But that's an event in the Detroit area pretty soon, I think.
Yeah, interesting.
Oh, yeah. No. You got any sound bites on that one?
On what?
Of the analogies.
I don't know. I got so much crap here. I don't know. I don't want to put James.
Come on, just one time. Come on. You guys know this guy? Watch.
I don't know. What do I got? I gotta look. No, that's not it. That's not it.
Genovese are the New York Knicks of that's Madison Square Garden. That's where the big dogs play. They're the Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl champions. They're the Lakers. They're the marquee. They're the top name on the market.
Frank loves that.
He makes like sports comparisons.
Stop the baloney, huh? Who the hell?
You guys best drops for sure.
Yeah. That's what makes the show. I think anyway. We have fun, and that's what I was trying to tell you guys. I was talking to Angela. He was like, "Yeah, but would they like the Angela? Just come over there and let loose, bro. Let loose." Shout out to Angela.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. Well, there you go. DL, who is the original crumb bum of 52 Topics, if you guys don't know that. Have any of you guys read the book Operation Gladio by Paul L. Williams?
Oh, okay.
I have it, but I haven't read it. I have it.
Okay.
Don't know.
All right.
All
Somebody
right.
gonna say
Thanks,
something?
guys.
All right.
Thank you guys
Thanks.
for coming.
Thank you guys.
Thanks a ton, guys. Brett and Frank. It was an honor.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you,
No,
Griffin.
I
Thank you,
appreciate
Dr.
it.
James. Frank, you want to close it out?
Yeah, no, thanks for being here, guys. It was a pleasure. And like I said, hopefully we could do this again.
Let's definitely do it.
Very cool.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, listen, we'll be back Monday for our live stream, and then me and Frank got some pre-records to do, so keep a lookout for things that are coming up on the channel. If you want, go over to NYC Crime Spot, check out the latest stuff I'm doing over there. I'll be out this weekend filming again, and we will see you all soon. Good night, Joe Root, Matt, and good night, lastly, to the great Roro G, our moderator. Everybody have a good night, and we'll see you all soon.
Thanks a ton.